All right, so Danny of RX Fits, and today we're gonna talk about the 3 most powerful exercises for fat loss. Fat loss. Now, before I get into the 3 specific ones, I want to explain kind of the reasoning behind it a little bit. When you think about fat loss, you're thinking about movements that engage the most primary movers. As trainers, we talk about primary movers a lot. Primary movers are going to be your big muscles that are in charge of moving your skeletal system, like Bobby Bones here. You know, he's the big skeleton, and he can't move on its own. Well, he can't move at all, but if this was a person, he wouldn't be able to move on his own. He needs muscles to move to the bones, right? We all know that. It's kind of common sense at this point. So, but what primary movers are the big muscles. So we're thinking of something like quads, right? The quads sit in front of the bone, right here, right? Glutes, the butt, the peach back here, right? Hamstrings, right? Lats, that cover the back. Those are the big primary movers. So when you think about burning fat, you want to activate the muscles that are the most powerful and can consume the most amount of energy, right? Because that's what fat is energy. So that's what we're thinking about when thinking about exercise. As a trainer, you're like, okay, to burn fat, I want to access your biggest muscles. So 3 major muscles that do that are 3 major exercises that do that activate all the primary movers. So at RX Fit, we call them the 3 primary mechanics, right? Because we want everyone to be doing these movements. So the first one is gonna be good old-fashioned squats. I just mentioned there you have lats, the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, right? Those 4 muscle groups are what we want to think about when you're trying to burn a lot of fat, a lot of energy. And so that movement, we watch the mechanic of a squat. And by the way, if you're going to do squats for fat loss, make sure you do it with force, meaning weight, right? Something that's going to be very resistant to really put those muscles under a large load. And I'll explain why here soon after I talk about the 3 exercises, why it's important to put yourself under a large load. So we're doing squats. Let's use kettlebells. I like kettlebells. So he's going to hold a kettlebell in his hands. He's going to do what's called a front rack position goblet squat, or with a kettlebell, like that. He would hold it like. Hold it like that, kind of like he's praying, but it's like this in front of you. In order to get down, we already know that you're going to use, when you squat, you have to use your quads a lot, right? The muscles right here in front of the legs, they're going to allow for you to drop down here, and your glutes. The quads and the glutes are going to work together in order for you to get down into this position. So that is the easy part. Harder ones, the ones I want to focus on for the squat, are going to be the hamstrings and the lats, right? Under the back of the leg and back here. So when you're doing a proper squat for fat loss, you'll engage all 4 major muscle groups. So you want to lean forward a little bit. I can't seem to grab his leg. There you go. You want to lean forward a little bit, like this. As you lean forward during your squat, it'll start to pull on the hamstring back here. So that makes it a little bit more tight, and boom. Now it's an optimal working range as you lean forward like this, right? But you still want to sit upright with your spine, but lean forward. Does that make sense? You don't want to slouch. That will fire the hamstrings. So now you have the hamstrings, you have the quads, and the glutes, and then you want to go to the primary mover, to the last primary mover, which are the lats. Much more difficult to activate in a squat. However, we're doing a goblet squat, like I mentioned earlier, which means you hold the weight right here. When you do that, I'm going to show you without Bobby for a second. You're going to hold here in front of you. You lean forward, like I said, as you're going down or coming up, and you want to squeeze. You want to squeeze those back muscles like this. You want to pull your shoulders back, and you want to squeeze them down, almost like you're about to do a pull-up. If you can do a pull-up, when you grab a bar and you pull yourself into position, you kind of pull your wings back. That's what the lats are. We call them wings to fly away. There, like that. But since the weight's in here, I want to pull my shoulders back and hold the weight here and keep those lats flexed and then tilt forward to get the hamstrings activated. If you can do it properly, get all 4 primary movers engaged under a lot of force, and that will burn. It will accelerate the fat burn process far faster than doing just like a run or doing like 100 squats without weights, right? So that's 1, squats. Highly recommended. Oh, my skull, my brain. RDL stands for Romanian deadlift, right? There's a conventional deadlift, which is the classic standard one. It looks more like a squat, but the weight's down below you, underneath your knees. That's not what we're talking about, because that's kind of a lot of those muscle groups that we're already hitting are being hit by the squat. What we're going to focus on is a Romanian deadlift, and that one is more of a straighter leg position with a flat back leaning forward, right? As you're getting into that RDL position, as you're trying to come down, you want it to be curved, kind of like it is right now, but even more dramatically, right? You want to dramatize it as much as possible, and that will pull on the hamstrings, and that will let you know that you've gone far enough, and you want that stop there, right? if people say like, oh, you want to get flat as a board, or you want to get parallel with the ground, but it's not everyone's built the same way, not everyone has the same level of mobility, so don't try to force a position that you can't do, right? And likewise, don't stop if you can go further in the proper positioning, right? Because if you don't feel in your hamstrings, then you're not far enough yet if you've done the knee bend the proper way, and if you've gotten your nice brace neutral position in your spine the right way, right? So remember, that's what's gonna burn all the fat, is that you're using lats, you're using glutes, you're using your hamstrings. This is even gonna pull on your calves, and you gotta hold a lot of weight either here, maybe it's the bars on your spine like a good morning, maybe you're holding a dumbbells and kettlebells right here, barbell, and just as you stand up, right? Boom, and then boom. It's a Romanian deadlift. The last one, and one of the most interesting ones, because people don't expect it generally, is going to be the press. Now, this is like a bench press, right? It'd be a dumbbell press. The mechanic, the movement, the position of the body is what we're thinking about when we say press. Don't think about the tools necessary, right? It's just the pushing process. Now, the idea is, you want to keep, it's like a static hold position on the bottom half, right? You're just going to hold this position in the hips. You're not going to move them around, you're going to move at all. Actually, you don't want the hips going up and down. You just want to freeze them in place. Up here, this is where all the action is going to happen. But these have to be maintained under the load the entire time as you're using the mechanics up here, the upper half, as I mentioned. Like Monday, you would go do your squats, right, on position. You'd be sore. And after Monday, you're going to be sore in the quads. And we sore in the glutes. And then 2 days later, you're starting to get to that peak of that soreness, he's like, all right, I'm going back to the gym. What should I do? And then do the next mechanic, do the RDL. And then get the lats sore here, and then the hamstrings, and maybe even the calves a little bit, right? But it's important to get hamstrings, the glutes, and then the lats. You're going to hit the glutes twice. That's fine. It's a lot happening here. You're going to have a lot of strong muscles that can take it. 2 days after that, you're going to go into that press motion, and everything down here should be sore at this point, right? The squats, glutes, the hamstrings, the calves. And now you're bringing the abs, more of the abs, and the pecs and the arms into it, right? The deltoids, the shoulders. This is why the 3 most powerful exercises, because you're gonna hit a little bit of everything, or a lot of bit of everything, to be honest, if you're doing it right. And hitting a lot of bit of everything throughout that week is gonna maximize results. Why are we seeing such great results? Essentially, think about compounding interest of calorie burn. There's something called the afterburn effect. Then up to 48 hours after a really good strength training session, you burn the most amount of calories because you're replacing all the damage of the tissue. You're causing compression damage to your bones. You're causing a little bit of tear into your ligaments and tendons in a safe way. You're causing a lot of tear into the muscle fibers. It's because the continuing of that compound interest of the fat loss, right? Not only 1 or 2 pounds after a few weeks, now it's like 10, 12 pounds of muscle mass you've gained. And that's a huge difference. That has 6 out of 7 days of afterburn, calorie burn, right? The afterburn effect. And on top of that, every so often they're getting another 1 pound or 2 pounds of muscle mass until they have 12, 15 pounds of muscle mass. And they're just incinerating fat the entire time. That's why it's so effective. 3 months is kind of the number that we stick with, because you can gain that 10 to 12 pounds of muscle if you do it properly and heal yourself. And that's what we're going for. And that's why these are the 3 most popular exercises, not just popular, sorry, the most effective exercises, because the primary movers, the afterburn effect, and then the muscle mass. So keep in mind, we're going to release more of this information in the future. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm doing it on my couch because last video that I did, actually my desk, people seem to enjoy it. I might do more of it in the future. If you do like this, please subscribe, because we are going to be adding people to an email list so that we can get you on a list for a program that we're going to be releasing, where it's all of this information, but more digestible, right? Like a step 1 through 50 kind of thing. And you can really absorb that information. On top of that, that's it. I'll see you in a couple of days. The idea is, the brain. You know what? I'm gonna leave it off. I don't care.